Ms. Seedat, just a couple of matters I've been asked to raise with you. Did you receive any training on the Freedom of Information Act?
Goodness, I can't recall it. I just can't recall it. I may have done, but I don't remember.
And is it right that you received no training on public interest immunity?
No.
In your evidence, you mentioned there being little time to reflect on lines to take. And it suggested that this might mean that there's a risk that the line to take can become embedded. Do you have any practical suggestions of how this might be addressed to try to prevent it from happening in the future?
It's very difficult because of the pace that we work sometimes. The deadlines are always very short that we need to work to, and kind of taken together with all the other work. I don't have any immediate solutions, I'm afraid. Obviously, the easiest answer would be if you had more resources. That's the easiest answer, but not always a practical solution.
If you'd come across a document or correspondence or other evidence in the course of your work that suggested to you that there might be cause to question the line to take on an issue, how would you have brought that to the attention of the senior members of the team?
Yeah, so I think I have been, so when I worked in flu policy, I recall the odd occasion where if I was uncertain about something, I would raise it with my immediate line manager, or often, because it was quite scientific advice with flu policy specifically, I'd speak to people at Public Health England who were the experts just to kind of get a bit more clarity about the issue.
Did you always feel confident that you could have raised things that you weren't comfortable with?
To be honest, I don't know if I really thought about it while I was in the job. I think it was just a question of getting through the workload most of the time while I was in that post.
Sir Nigel said in evidence that if in the meeting with Lord Jenkin he'd said something that went against the line, that the officials would... Let me start that again. Apologise, Miss Seedat. Sir Nigel said in evidence that if in the meeting with Lord Jenkin he'd said something that went against the line to take, that the officials would have raised this with him after the meeting. Is that right? If he'd said something wrong or that went against the line, would you have raised this with him following the meeting?
I think I would have, and I think Sean would have raised it as well. So Sean was the private secretary at the time.
You've obviously worked at a variety of branches in the civil service. Would you consider that the issue around the destruction of documents in the 1990s was unusual or unprecedented in your experience?
Almost certainly, yes.
In your second witness statement, you note a briefing document from February 2007 that was prepared by Linda Page that recorded this. Following publicity surrounding the loss of documents relating to HIV and hepatitis C, a firm of solicitors acting for claimants advised that they held documents relating to the HIV litigation. And then you say this at paragraph 35.4. We suggested that Carol Grayson should contact the solicitors and ask that papers are returned to the department. We were notified on the 17th of May by the solicitors division that papers from Blackett, Hart and Pratt solicitors had been returned. It would have been around this time that I first became aware that a firm of solicitors held papers. There's also in the papers a letter from Blackett, Hart and Pratt, dated the 7th of February 2006. For the transcript, the reference is DHSC 001 5865. It's addressed to the Treasury Solicitor, setting out that Blackett, Hart and Pratt held various documents which may have been thought to be lost or destroyed. And they concluded their letter seeking an assurance that the documents would be preserved so that Ms Grayson and any other interested person could access them. First of all, on being notified of the papers being held by BHP, do you know why the Department of Health didn't seek their return directly rather than asking Ms Grayson to arrange their return?
It's very, I couldn't figure it out when I was looking at the papers, but there might have been a rationale behind it. I can't say what that was at the moment, I'm afraid.
Were you involved in that decision, as far as you can recall?
I just can't recall.
And to the best of your knowledge, did the department give any undertaking or assurance in line with that requested? In other words, that documents would be preserved and interested parties would be have access to them, would be granted access to them?
At the time, I can't recall. I remember a discussion about ensuring that there was in a secure place, but I can't recall at that point whether there was that discussion about making them available.
I'm just going to look behind me, sir. So there's no further questions from those behind me or from Mr. Moss. So are there any matters you would wish to raise at this point?
No, I have no further questions.
Ms. Seedat, is there anything else you would like to say?
I don't know.
Well, it remains for me to say something to you, and it's this. I don't know if you noticed when you looked through some of the documents, there is one document in which, in the course of a generalised expression of disappointment in the department's ability to retain documents, a particular exception is made in your being singled out for being particularly helpful to the writer. It seems to me that that's something which is perhaps in your nature. You've been particularly helpful, as it seems to me, in the way in which you've tried to give the best of your evidence today and to us, and overall particularly helpful to us. And I just want to thank you for that.
Thank you.
Now, we have David Armstrong waiting in the wings.
We do, sir. I wonder if we could take just a short break so that matters here can be turned round, as it were, and then we could start with Professor Armstrong.
Yes, of course, and it gives Zubeda Seedat a chance to withdraw.
Exactly.
So we'll come back, shall we, in 10 minutes, let's say 2:10 for this afternoon's hearings. So 2:10.
Thank you.